Well, if we're gonna find any ghosts, we better split up.
You're listening to Never Split Up, a horror movie podcast.
There are certain rules that one must abide by in order to successfully survive a horror movie.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Never Split Up podcast. This is episode 103. Alongside me, as always, is Anthony, and our new permanent co-host is Oriana. What's going on, guys?
What's up? Too much. What's going on with you?
Not much. We have a good one for you guys today. Just coming off the heels of Halloween. Said that Halloween season is over, but we thought we'd get your appetites ready for Thanksgiving by covering the infamous Human Centipede first sequence, released in 2009 initially. And yeah, this is going to be an interesting review. I know, Oriana, this was on like your list of no rewatches or something like that. You have a list for this month that you wanted to rewatch movies that you said you wouldn't before. Is that correct?
Yeah, so I'm doing No November, which is watching all of the horror movies that I wrote off. It was like, I'm never watching again. I don't need to watch it. And I'm forcing myself to rewatch it with a new pair of eyes so that I can determine whether or not it's as bad as I thought the first time around.
Okay, cool. So you watched this, I'm assuming, only once, I guess, like right after it came out, like the year or two it came like pretty long ago, I'm assuming.
Yeah, I watched this the first time with my best friend, and we watched it on his laptop in his room. And we were like, we've heard so much about this film, and we just dove right in. And I was not the seasoned horror fan that I am now. So it just was a little much for me at the time. And I was like, I'm never watching anything like this again.
Yeah, I think that was for a lot of people. I think this got popular enough to where people that weren't really into horror were watching it, and that's why it was getting so viral. I watched it, I believe, at my buddy's house the first time, and that was a fun experience. I watched it once before, or I'm sorry, once again. So this was my third rewatch, but it's been years, so it was really cool to kind of revisit this film. What about you, Ant? Do you go back to this one a lot?
I mean, I don't think I watched it like a few times when it came out because it's like hilarious showing people this movie, but I don't think I've seen it in like a decade.
Yeah,
not anything against the movie, but it's not like, well, I'm like, let me just pop on Human Centipede tonight. I do own it. I own it, but I haven't watched it in quite a bit. So
yeah, I wouldn't really classify this as a comfort film, but maybe it is for some people. So any of you sick fucks disagree with us, let us know in the comments and stuff. So
and how many times a year you rewatch it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
We need to
how
put
often it's just playing in the background. Any housekeeping to do, Anthony? Anything? No recent polls, has there?
No, I was trying to get a little more views on our last two episodes, but I'll just post the polls with this one. But yeah, I mean, we just dropped our remake episode. That was an awesome time. Watch that one. Let us know who's number one and whose list you agree with more. I'll post the polls. I'll post a couple polls for that one. Then make sure you check out our double feature of It and It Chapter 2. I'll also post that poll. But yeah, those are pretty biggie episodes leading up to Halloween, so go check out that. It was fun. I love doing ranking episodes, so that was fun.
Yeah, it was fun. We're definitely going to have to continue that in the future. I know we're slowing down the podcast a bit, but I definitely want to squeeze in ranking episodes here and there. Because I always love doing those, and I love seeing how stressed Anthony gets. And now, Oriana, you were pretty stressed too, so now I get to see both of you guys squirm a little bit. Okay, well, without further ado then, let's dive into the Human Centipede. And you normally cover the cast and crew. We're going to switch it up because this is Oriana's first official episode with us full-time. Oriana, why don't you go over the cast, crew, and synopsis for this film?
All right, so the Human Centipede had a festival release in 2010. It's categorized as a body horror, and the synopsis is a mad scientist kidnaps and mutilates a trio of tourists in order to reassemble them into a human centipede created by stitching their mouths to their others' rectums. Directed by Tom Sticks and stars Dieter Laser, Winter Williams, and Ashleen Yeeney.
Okay, yes. Again, this is the first sequence. There were a couple sequels that came after this,
Mhm.
all directed by the same director. He kind of directed these three, and I think he really hasn't done much since or anything, especially in horror. He's kind of
Right.
just put his kind of stamp on the genre and kind of just fluttered away. I believe he's a Dutch filmmaker, so yeah, this is going to be a fun episode. Let's get into our overall thoughts, and let's kick it off with you.
Yeah, so this one's an interesting one for me. I mean, when it first came out, like Nolan said, everyone was talking about like this is the nastiest thing you're gonna watch. Like, go see it. Like, or can you watch it? Can you make it through the movie without getting sick? And I don't know, I'm gonna get judged right now, but this one for me, I went into it again. Hype is a big thing, so I went into it and I was like, this is gonna like, why am I watching this? This is gonna be fucking disgusting and nasty. But when I came out, I'm like, oh, I thought it was gonna be way worse than it was, and that might say something about me. But I was like, it's weird because this movie, it's not like there's violence in it, but it's not super violent. It's more of like, and the stuff that disgusts me is what happens in this movie. But thankfully, I think to a credit to the director in the movie, it's almost implied and you see it, but you don't like. I mean, you don't actually see shit going into someone's mouth. Thank God. In this one, wait till you get to the sequel. But in this one, you don't see that. So it's disgusting and twisted and demented and disturbing. But I actually appreciate that it's shown through like the acting, like the facial expressions and how they're reacting to it. It's nasty as hell, but I'm happy I didn't have to see it like legitimately. So I actually appreciate about this one, and then you have some actual like a couple like slashing and killings that never go over the top, but there's some killing in this too, not just watching three people get tortured for 90 minutes straight. But that part is very disturbing. But I would say it surprised me how much more psychological it is to like have them in this situation versus visually seeing it. So that actually to me is a credit to the movie because he's not just going for like he could have just shocked us and show us everything at once and have been done, but he saved that for the sequel. So this one, he really, made us feel the psychological peril this trio is in, along with the physical. But like, really, like, I didn't need to see the nastiness, so that was good. Um, but also on the flip side, I was like, should it have went further in the first one? So I kind of have like this weird, like, yin and yang with this first movie, where like I'm happy they took the approach they did, but also like if you're gonna blow up and like all this hype, like it's the most disgusting thing ever. Like fucking go there. But I mean, I don't need to see like shit in anyone's mouth and all that. So I'm just happy that the way it was filmed and it was. I like the makeup with like the stitching and all that's messed up. I mean, these characters go through some fucked up shit, but they're also like some of the dumbest characters in horror. So that's always fun. I mean, it's a fun movie. You yell at the screen like, "What are you doing?" But it's also like disgusting and demented. I'm like, why did Tom Six think of this? Like, what is going on? But I mean, I would say overall the villain is very memorable. He's great. Dieter Laser, I think he kills it. Rest in peace. I think he passed away a few years ago, but he kills it. And I would say it's fun showing this movie to people for a first time watch. So that's where I take the joy in it. But I would say overall, it's an entertaining like horror twisted, like coming off the heels of the torture porn phase, psychological horror, and I think it's watchable and entertaining enough, but it doesn't fully go pedal to the metal where the sequel just goes like times 8,000, and that's for better or worse, but at least it does earn its like most disgusting thing ever. So I would say I'm positive on it. I don't. I know no one knows a big criteria for me is rewatchable. I don't rewatch this movie every year or anything, but I own it and I go back to it maybe once a few years. If I'm ever curious, like, oh, what's going on with Human Centipede? Let me pop that in again. So I would say I'm positive on it, but I like 50-50 on whether I thought it should go further. But overall, I think it's an entertaining watch.
Okay. I guess I'll go next. Yeah, I largely agree with you, Anthony. I think the brilliance of this movie and this script created by Tom Six is just its premise, right? I mean, it's called The Human Centipede. Whoever, I guess he's the sole person to think this concept up he's just got a messed up brain. He was able to just rely on the premise alone to allow the audience to kind of their minds go wild. And I think especially with this first one, obviously it spawned two sequels, so it did well enough, monetarily to do that. But with this first one, I'm assuming he didn't have a huge budget, so he had to get creative, right? And he had to think of ways to kind of imply things and and make it suspenseful and not go balls to the wall. So I think in a lot of ways he nailed it. I think this is a great balance. Um, Kind of similar to like a Hostel, like the first Hostel. I think Hostel, the sequels and stuff especially, but the first Hostel does a good balance. Now that goes a little bit more into like the actual like blood and guts of it all. And that's why they call it torture porn. But I think similar to that movie, it kind of has a good balance. This is my, I guess, favorite one because I don't need the sequels. I mean, I just think they're just silly for the sake of being silly. But this one takes itself pretty seriously. I don't think it's really like, I feel like the sequels are like a parody of the first movie, but the first movie is like a legit, like seriously toned movie. And I mean, all the two actresses play these roles so straight. Even in the beginning when they're making
So
ridiculous
stupid.
decisions and they're being just so ditzy. They're playing it straight for the most part, and credit to them because there's some pretty horrified looks in this movie. Now it's not perfect. I have a couple minor gripes with it. I think Ant, what you're saying, where he could have gone a little bit more. I wouldn't say the term balls to the wall, but I think he could have gotten a little bit more clever with maybe using sound effects and sound cues to
Ugh.
make it a little bit more disgusting. I know, I
Yeah.
just saying it
Yeah.
is like but I think he really could have like gotten a little bit more creative in that department.
Yeah, I agree.
But yeah, the Dr. Hyder, played by Dieter Laser, is just
So good.
legendary. I think he's one of the best modern villains in horror. I mean, his facial acting and his dominance on screen and on screen and his presence are awesome. And yeah, he did die, I believe, in 2020. So rest in peace to him. But he is like the standout of the film. Without his performance, you don't get the suspenseful scenes in the third act and stuff, because you're genuinely terrified for these people. The way he treats them like literally like dogs, and we'll get into that, like because he had the dog
That makes me
centipede before
sad.
them.
Yeah.
It's so fucked up, and yeah, this is a fun watch to go back to when you haven't watched it in a long time, I think, and especially if you're showing it to someone new. It's obviously not something you're going to throw on. At least it's not something I'm going to throw on every month or whatever. But it's fun to go back to it. Now, I will say, on retrospect, I don't love this as much as maybe I initially thought I did. I think the first viewing will always be the most impactful because it has that tension and suspense, which is really well done. But because you don't get that on the rewatches, it falls a little bit more flat for me. But yeah, Dr. Hyder is like so cool, I think, as a villain. And I love just like his monologues and everything. And when he's describing the operation, I'm just like locked into the screen. So I think he saves this movie from being really bad.
Well
Yeah, he
done.
makes it memorable for sure.
Well, yeah, like I agree with this rewatch. I hadn't watched it in very long time, so I forgot a lot of things, and my biggest thing is it was so slow at the beginning, where it just felt like it took so long to actually get to the human centipede, and then I felt like that time was so short than I remember. Like I remember it just that those scenes just taking so long, and then on my rewatch, I was like, oh, it takes a little bit for them to actually be joined together. And then for me, that's where the movie I feel like really picks up is once they're already conjoined and, you know, they're trying to escape, that those in the house, that's where it really begins. So the first part, I'm kind of when on my rewatch, I was a little bored. We're watching the doctor and him like kidnap what's his face, and then, the girls are breaking down in the car and they're arguing, which they should have split up if that was the case. We'll get to that. But yeah, this rewatch wasn't as bad as I was anticipating. Like this whole time I was like, I'm never watching a Human Centipede. It is so gross. And like my rewatch, I was like, oh, it's not that bad. I mean, it's definitely has a graphic concept and you get a little bit of like grossness like with the infection on the mouth and things like that, but overall I definitely think the sequels go there a lot further than this film went, and I do wish that they would have pushed the limits, at least for this first film, with as much hype as it got and when it's released.
Okay, yeah, no, that's interesting. We kind of are a little bit different. I was a little bit more like, because I've kind of defended this movie over the last 15 years. And while it's still good, it's not as good and intense as I remember. It's kind of opposite for you now that you kind of the shock wore off for you. It sounds like you enjoyed it a little bit more, which is cool to hear.
A little bit more.
Yeah.
Definitely not gonna be watching it every year.
Yeah.
I've got my rewatch in, and I'm pretty good, but
You're good for a while.
probably
Yeah.
another 10 years, I'll be like, "Let's revisit this guy again."
Well, now we're gonna have to do the sequel because we're all like, oh, it's not that messed up. Then we're like, we're gonna get to the sequel. I'm like, thank God that the first one wasn't that bad.
Yeah.
'Cause the sequel literally fucked me up.
Yeah.
That's why I'm like, I need to do 2 and 3 now, because the first one I thought was gonna be, like, over the top for, like, too much, and I was like, "I need more.
So we'll have to do the sequel next year
I
for
need more
Thanksgiving.
Yeah. Okay, so what do you guys think of this, like, I guess, first act? You have our two leads, Jenny and Lindsay. When I first was watching this film, again, I was at my buddy's house and we were so amped to watch it. And I see these two leads and I'm like, I get so deflated because I'm like, this is the type of movie it's going to be, isn't it? Like, just total B, not even, I wouldn't even call it B rated, just total slop fest with bad acting and cheesy lines and bad line delivery because they are struggling in this first act. I think they do a lot better, to Oriana's point, once they're kind of conjoined and once they're like in distress fully with the doctor. But them in the woods and even in like the hotel room when you get a little like kind of dialogue in the hotel room, I'm sitting there with my friends and I'm like, oh, this is gonna be fun to make fun of. Luckily, it gets better from here on out, but this was kind of a rough first act. Other than like the doctor scenes, again, the doctor he's pulled over on the side of the road and he kind of shrinks the one guy. That was pretty cool. He kind of dominates the screen, but anytime he's not on screen, it's like, oh man, this is rough.
Definitely. Yeah, the scene in the woods, I think, was the one that I was just like, "Okay, you're making some dumb decisions, you're being real bratty, like, it's raining, I get, but it could be worse." But that's where and you had those, like, cheesy lines with, like, the creepy guy that was, like, looking at them when they were pulled off to the side. So I feel like that's, like, the tone of, like, the, like, 2000s films that a lot of people didn't like, was that cheesiness at the beginning, which kind of probably put people off. At least for me, it just kind of was like, it's alright, it's okay." But, yeah, the first part of the movie, I was just kind of checked out for me, at least for me. I just wanted them to be stuck together.
I'm so torn because when I did opening, like, oh, this is bad, but like, might be like my kind of bad. Like, they're gonna go full bad and just be campy and silly, and it's gonna because the whole concept's ridiculous. Like, they're gonna go full ridiculous. So I was kind of like, I might be into this. And then when they take a turn and they actually go like, it actually does get pretty dark and mean. It's like, all right, I prefer that. But the opening, I was like, oh, are we in for like a fun, stupid, like throwaway, like B movie? I'm down for that. I mean, the whole thing is B movie, but I was like, oh, this might be hokey and stupid enough for me to just have a drink and have a good time. But it does switch over to getting serious, which I do prefer. But the opening, I'm like, oh, we're just in for bad acting and he's not taking this seriously. So I kind of think the opening of it being like that helped me appreciate when it does get serious more, if that makes any sense.
No, it does. It does have that tonal shift. And I don't know, I'm assuming it was intentional to kind of play these characters the way they did to kind of make it so you're not feeling so bad for them because they're pretty hard.
They're so
to
stupid
like,
too. Yeah.
especially once they get the flat tire. I mean, they're just typical like American tourists, like don't know anything, can't change a tire, have no survival instincts,
Zero.
are just super annoying and like you said, bratty. I think it's hilarious. Not only can they not change a tire, they decide to walk. But instead of down the road, they go into the woods.
That's
Like,
so
why are you walking down the
stupid.
road?
Why? Why don't you follow the paved path? Yes, let's go into the uncharted woods.
Yeah. And it's not even explained either. There's no scene where they like deviate from the road. It just cuts to them like lost in the woods. Like, what
It's
the fuck? We're going
hilarious.
camping now? What the hell?
And then why, I was like, why didn't you have a jacket? It's already raining. You're going to be walking. Why did you not have a jacket? That was my,
Yeah.
and you're complaining about it raining.
They
Yeah.
only waited for one. I know the guy was a creep, but like I would have liked maybe the next car that comes by will be a normal human being. But they just like, no, let's get out. Let's start walking in the woods. Go to a
Yeah.
stranger's house. I'm like, okay.
Yeah, it's rough. It's almost like he just wanted to just get to the doctor's house, and it was like,
Yeah.
okay, let's just
I mean, I'm fine
throw
with it.
let's
Yeah.
just throw scenes together and just get them there. Because once we get to the doctor's house, he answers the door. He kind of has this larger than life presence, like he's this older, distinguished doctor. You find out, like he's a
Mhm.
surgeon, like he's a kind of a recluse. He does a lot of work. But that's that first scene with them kind of shivering, freezing wet, like on his couch, and him offering them water. And as soon as they take the water, and as soon as he goes to
Stupid,
the
another
kitchen,
bag.
you know, like, all right, they're dumb. I love how like it wasn't even like there's a contrast with the cops, right? When the cops come later on, they kind of are able to get out at first because they're not super stupid, but these girls just fall for it instantly, and they kind of like have they. I remember there's one part, I forget what the line is, but they have like one moment towards the end of that scene where they're like, maybe we should leave. Like, I think we need to get out of here. But then they don't. They just sit there and they let the doctor come back and trank them. It's like, what the fuck? So I thought this is kind of where the movie takes a turn again when the doctor shows up, and becomes a little darker. And then obviously when they wake up in the cellar and they're next to that the guy from the opening sequence, then it gets like pretty fucked up. You see like the medical beds and everything, and you know, like they're in this guy's house, and he's got this whole like hospital set up in his cellar. So that's when I started to lock in, and I was like, okay, fucked up shit's gonna go down. This is gonna be interesting.
I just love when the doctor's explaining the whole process. Like, he is so stoked on his experiment. Like, he's like so just like proud that he's going to be doing this, and the way that he's talking about it. And you just look at the sheer terror on their face because they know this is about to be them. Is just like the doctor is definitely the star of the show. Like, he really does make this movie just with his enthusiasm of the, like, whole process of this experiment and how he's just so into it that you're just like, "Man, this man is very unhinged." I don't think therapy is gonna help him at all.
No, I mean, he doesn't look at these people as humans, right? I mean, he literally sees them as dogs, and not in a good way. He's not an animal lover yeah, at all.
Well,
So he's looking down on these people, even in that initial sequence when they're downstairs. The guy, the bigger guy, he kills. He's like, "You're not compatible with these other
Yeah.
two, so I need to kill you." And he just, in his mind, humanely puts him down, but he puts him down like a dog, basically. Has no remorse, doesn't hesitate at all. It's just like, it's not personal, but I just got to kill you. And the guy just dies. So you get a death pretty early on, which kind of sets the tone, which means he's not fucking around. I mean, he's not going to be able to be convinced or swayed or kind of manipulated into letting them go. So I think that was smart for the director to kind of set the tone there and make you realize that this guy's not fucking around.
Yeah, I love how they showcase how demented he is, like right up front, right after, he drugs them and everything. I'm like, okay, he's a villain that does not fuck around. He wants his creation to come to life. I think he says he wants to make his own creature, make his own new
Yeah.
creatures. And I hated it though when he took the conjoined Rottweilers. I'm like, oh
oh,
fuck, I'd rather do all the humans, don't do any dogs.
right?
But I do also like, to your point, how it kind of gets to it. I don't think this movie needed to be any longer than the 90-minute runtime. I think it would have really suffered if it was. I'm happy that it stuck to, like, horror movie 101 for the most part. Let's keep it quick, 90 minutes, especially with this concept, because how long can you watch three people, attached to each other like that anyway? So
Yeah. So we don't get the surgery until I actually checked the runtime. It was like right in the middle of the runtime. We were about 45 minutes in. But I'm going to push back a little bit on Oriana, because I remember the first time watching this film when I think it was Jenny who escapes the first time and she unshackles herself. That was freaking intense. Because again, you get the setup of this doctor's not fucking around. She gets upstairs. She's able to lock herself in the bedroom. The doctor is just like walking nonchalant like he's Michael Myers. He's in no hurry. He knows he's going to capture this girl. So you're like screaming at the TV almost like internally, like, do this, do that, do that. And of course, she's not making the right decisions. And finally, he breaks the glass, and the power goes out at some point. She's in the pool, right? And the power
Mm-hmm.
goes out, and he just leaves. And this is, I mean, the big never split up moment for me. She goes back down to get her friend, who's unconscious, and tries to drag her body up the stairs and out of the house. I mean, talk about like one of the ultimate dumb decisions. Like, you got to get the fuck out of there, girl. Like, come
That
on.
that was where I'm like, okay, you absolutely deserve what you're getting because you're doing dumb things. Because like love my friend and all, but like I need to go get help. There is a way
Yeah.
to escape, and I need to get out to get us help. But how are you gonna drag? Like, mind you, she's probably still hopped up on drugs. And then she's trying to drag this basically dead body up the stairs and then trying to escape. And the whole time she's being so loud about it.
It's just so
Throughout the house,
stupid.
she's like making all of these sounds. And I'm like, you're trying to escape. You're just letting him know exactly where you are with all of these grunts. And it made me just be like, well, you get what you get, because you should have been quieter or you should have made better decisions because it was just frustrating.
The thing that was infuriating about it too was she gets very far. Like,
Uh-huh.
Fucking
she's able
far.
to drag her friend up the stairs out of the house. She's on the lawn. That must have took her a good like 15, 20 minutes because she was not moving quickly. She was struggling every inch of the way. And the doctor is not like playing games. Like, he's business. So he legitimately, it took him that long to find them. So it's like if you would have just ran instantly, you would have been long gone. And so that's what makes it even more infuriating. And obviously, I think it was on purpose to
Yeah.
kind of, and then the doctor afterwards, he's like, "Yeah, you're going in the middle.
I
You're
love
my
that
middle."
part.
Yeah, I was like, "Oh,
I
fuck,
think it
that's
is. I think it
brutal."
was Lindsay though who did that, and I love how
But did I get him flipped?
Yeah, I think it is
Okay,
flipped with Lindsay because I think Jenny's the one who ends up at the end,
gotcha.
the last
Okay,
place. But
the
I
last
do
place.
like what you said. How it just her like this girl is trying to escape, and I'll give her that. But again, just like escape and get help and come back because you're not doing anyone favors. You definitely do yourself a favor because he just was like, "Yo, now you're getting fucked, literally in the middle. Like you're the worst position. Like that is the nest. That exactly like. There's a lot of fun things you can do at three people, but this is this is the last thing you want to do, and this is the last middle position you want to be in. So she really sealed her fate with that from being really stupid, and I feel bad for my girl because that's the worst position of that little trio.
So I'm pretty sure she was the only one that actually got the like poo because when he went to check her,
Yeah,
she was constipated, so the third girl in the
Yeah.
back didn't get anything.
Well, I think that's what led the third one because she was like she died of sepsis pretty much. The third one too. At the end, that's why at the end she's like the Lindsay's like suffering, left for dead, like stuck in the middle. That's the most disturbing part. Like I thought that was a good gut punch, and like this poor girl just left in the middle, in between, just to die slowly. I guess because everyone else is dead.
well, I
Ugh.
think it really drives home the fact of how fucking batshit crazy this doctor was, and that he really had no idea what he was talking about or doing because it's like, all right, the middle person literally gets infected and is going to die any minute because of this poo. And then the back person is like severely malnourished, isn't getting
Yeah.
anything, and is going to die anyway. So this was never going to work. Obviously, we get the sequels, so it kind of takes it to a different level. But in this initial
Oh yeah.
kind of movie, it's like, of course, this wasn't going to work. And it's super creepy how this guy was a doctor and such a well renowned surgeon who I think he separated conjoined twins. So he did like the opposite of what he's trying to do now, basically. I think that adds a level of creepiness. It's like he spent his life helping people and, saving lives. And now he's turned into this monster.
Yeah, I do like the touch of them saying he was an expert at separating Siamese twins. I almost think that makes him even more demented because, like you said, he was doing so much good, but in his mind, he was like, "How could I make this fucked up and twisted the whole time?" So I think that like lends itself to how much of a crazy villain he is. He really is the star of the movie, and the movie wouldn't work without him.
No, not at
Yeah.
all. He's like
I do.
one you love to hate because
Yeah, I'm
he
like, what?
scares you because of how demented he is, but you're like, oh, but you're so twisted. It's so good,
And I
but you're
love the dark humor of like his random like bursts of laughter and his random one-liners. I'm like, and the pauses of after he does this dialogue, it just pauses for some moments. I think it's so
Yeah.
silly. It adds to the camp. You need a little bit of camp in this concept, so they do play it. I know it's serious, but they do have those moments of all right, they know what they're doing too. This is ridiculous.
Yeah, and so we get to the operation itself, which again doesn't show a lot. I don't think it shows actually anything. I think they skip over like most of the operation. Maybe they show little flashes here and then of him operating,
Kind
but
of like quick cuts a little bit, I
yeah,
feel
quick
like, here and
cuts and
there.
stuff. But they are starting to come to. They have the bandages, which remains throughout the whole movie. Again, we get little glimpses of uh, the way he did the operation. He didn't just like put their lips to the butt, but he cut open like holes and then like stitched
Yeah.
jaws together. So I think again that was clever because we were able to kind of see it without actually seeing it. We were able to just see kind of the stitched on stapled skin, which I think was interesting. And I love the part, like you were saying, Ant, the campiness of some of the scenes where he realizes the operation was a quote unquote success and they start waking up. He's showing them the mirror and they're looking at the mirror and they're seeing
Yeah.
themselves, and then he turns the mirror to himself. He starts kissing himself in the mirror. Like
Yeah.
he's so proud of his creation.
They're like all screaming and crying, and he's just like gonna be more smiley and happy and giggly.
Yes.
He was just like, look at my greatness. And then they're like, oh my God.
Yeah.
And he was just unfazed. But it was just like when he was waking them up, and I was like, oh, can you imagine just waking up in that scenario as middle? I don't
Oh
know. The
no.
person in the front had the best position, and he did his job of like trying to like get out of the situation. Like I
Yeah.
really appreciate that character of like
He tried to
trying.
hold it.
Yeah. Oh God, I know.
I think he
He
was the
tried.
most capable, definitely out of the three. And shout out to him. I believe the actor's name is Akiro Kitamura.
Yeah,
He
that's the one.
plays Katsuro. I don't even know if we find out his name in the movie, but he's credited as that. He does pretty well, and he's pretty capable. He has a pretty cool monologue, like right before he takes his own life, which was pretty cool. I thought it was interesting direction wise to go with him because he didn't speak English. So there was a language barrier there. Obviously, the doctor, he speaks German and English. So he was able to communicate with the two women. But the only person that was able to communicate back with him once the operation was complete was this Japanese man. So there was no back and forth the rest of the movie. We pretty much get, him screaming and cursing off the doctor. You have the doctor kind of telling him
Belittling him.
instructions like give me the
Yeah.
newspaper and stuff, but there's no communicate like direct communication there, which I thought was interesting. And then you just have the two women just moaning and crying for 45 minutes. I mean, it was pretty constant.
Yeah, the sequence when he forces the guy to eat the dog food is like pretty like messed up, and then the way he just belittles him with like pretty much like the racist insults, and he
Yeah.
beats him too. So that guy, I feel like that you can actually you felt the pain with that. Where the girls, again, I feel so bad for them because they're in like the worst positions. But again, like you said, after she gets caught, it's just pretty much moaning and like, what are we gonna do? We're done. So that guy in the front does try, and I don't even know if I would not do. I know he kind of gets free and he chooses to take his life after he's already kind of like could escape, but I don't blame him because it's such a fucked up.
Yeah.
It's just a fucked up scenario.
Yeah, again, he does make a dumb decision.
Mhm.
So we get the ending sequence where he's able to get the scalpel and he's able to stab the doctor. He has the doctor dead to rights, like laying on the ground. He
Yeah,
drops the scalpel and he goes to bite him. I'm like,
I
what
know.
the fuck? Like, what would possess you to like bite the guy and then just leave him? It's like, dude, kill that motherfucker, and then you have all the time in the world to escape. So I thought that was like kind of silly. It almost was like too silly, like not believable. So
Yeah,
it almost didn't bother me because it was just so over the top dumb, if that makes sense.
I agree.
What I really loved with the language barrier, though, is that the only time that they can kind of comfort each other in this situation was like holding hands. So we get a few shots in this where they're like distressed in the cage and they can't speak like to each other, but they just are holding hands of each other, trying to support each other in this really fucked up situation. And that's kind of where I feel like the audience can really feel for these people is like,
Yeah,
they're in this really messed up situation and they're trying their best to like support one another, but they have a well, it's not like the other two can really speak anyways, but like the communication, wasn't really they weren't able to have. So I think it was just a really sweet and sad moment to see them just like holding hands in this. in their
Yeah, or you're
cage.
like, this saying like we're all in this together, where they're literally together, so they're all in it
Like,
together.
really
I never
together.
thought we'd use the term "sweet" to describe anything about this
I
movie. Oh,
do
it's so
like the
sweet.
sequence too when he like pretty much like he's trying to apologize before he does go,
Yeah,
in her mouth. I'm like that's hard because he can't. I mean, it is what it is. It's got to go.
yeah.
So
He's like,
that
I
like
can't
those
hold
little
it. I
tender
can't hold it.
moments. Yeah,
Yeah.
he's like I can't. Like he's like fucking really upset that he has to do it. But that part got me a little. I'm like, oh man, this is nasty.
No, I mean, there's something to, and horror obviously does this the best, of like putting people in similar circumstances, even though they're different walks of life. And obviously, this is the most intimate of circumstances. I don't think it gets closer than this. But they eventually learn to kind of, like you said, Oriana, through hand gestures and kind of, whatever. I think it was clever to kind of, when they're trying to escape, he's like barking orders. He's like, 1, 2, like for left, right, which was, I think, clever to kind of get them on the same page and walking. She's directing him towards the bedroom window, which was clever of her. Obviously, he got the window replaced, but I think that was their best shot instead of going out the front door. So I do think that was clever on her part. And they did almost make it out. I mean, he was banging the window and he almost got it. It was cracking, a lot before it broke. But yeah, and then his monologue, like you said, and he's got some moments where it's like he really does care about these women, and I could tell, at least to me, he did feel remorse from killing himself because he knows once he kills himself, they have nowhere to go. Like they're literally helpless and defenseless. And obviously, I can't recite the monologue word for word, but I thought it was pretty powerful and effective how he was like, I'm not a perfect person. I did a lot of bad in my life, but he's describing the doctor. He's like, are you God? Is this God like punishing me because I lived a bad life? But then he flips it. He's like, you know what? No, even though I'm not perfect, I still deserve to be human and live as a human, and I don't want to live this way. So yeah, I thought that was cool. And then he takes I thought this was like the one scene where I had to look away, where he cuts his neck and you
Yeah,
see the skin and the neck just split
that
open.
was
I mean, I
cool.
thought that was pretty effective.
Yeah, it's really weird because you have kind of like split feelings with this guy because obviously what he's going through is horrible, but also what he does to himself guarantees the other two's fate. Like he's leaving them just, suffer. They're going to be done. They're pretty much their death sentences are after that. So it's kind of like a good thing. I think the director was smart that you kind of had these split feelings of like our pretty much our trio too. Like they're doing stupid things, they have a chance to get out, but they're making stupid decisions. But also, I mean, you can't blame them for the mental state that they're put in after they're going through all
Yeah.
this. So it's kind of like I do like how the first one versus the other sequels might go for the gross out gags that we expected from this one. The first one really does deal with the psychological factor of it the most.
Hmm.
And then, like, I just, I don't even know, even if like the middle survived, how you would process that whole situation. Just
Yeah.
like mentally, just being literally attached to someone's rectum and then having someone attached to your rectum, like, and then them both die on you. It's just, it's just a fucked up scenario. It would make me never trust another human in my entire life.
Well, that's the thing. It's so fucked up, and this doctor is so evil, and they do a good job. Again, Dieter Laser does a great job of portraying just pure evil. Like, literally looks at other people like they're not humans. That even though these characters are making dumb decisions, you are still kind of rooting for them. Whereas normally in like a normal horror movie, if you will, or normal circumstances, you're gonna be like, oh, fuck these people. Like they're stupid. But because they're faced with such fucked up situations that you feel so bad for them still. And yeah, I mean, it's not like she can, even if she lives, like her jaw was removed. She has no teeth anymore. She wouldn't be
Yeah.
able to like feed herself. She'd probably live on
Would you
machines
guys
the
want to
rest of her
live
life.
if you made it out? Like, what would you?
No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
I'm
would just wanna just
I
end
was
me.
thinking of like my scenario in each position. I'm like, this is just I don't know.
Maybe if I was front, maybe if I was the front one, but not either the 2 or 3, because at that point, you've you're just your whole jaw and everything, the way you
Yeah,
like, live is not gonna be the same, and at that point, it's just like you're gonna be so traumatized that you aren't going to end up really having a life after that.
I guess
That's
you're right, because
probably
you'll
the
literally
only.
have the visual scars to, like, remember it too, not obviously what you're feeling, but yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I'm
I
strong
would
enough.
never be able to eat mashed potatoes again, that's for sure.
Nothing squishy.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
You
gonna
wouldn't
fuck you
even
up
be
for
the
life.
same person. So like even if you did quote unquote live, like it's not really living. You're a different person after that. So yeah, you're pretty much dead either way.
Yeah, just take me out. Take me out immediately.
Same, we're kind of on the same
I thought
page.
the cops, the two cop angle was an interesting angle. Normally they would die and they did end up dying, but I thought the fact that they actually killed the doctor, again, super brutal and dark ending where pretty much everyone dies except for our poor Lindsay who's stuck in the middle. And I thought that was really effective, her just crying as the credits roll. Like it leaves you with just
That's the gut
yeah.
punch of it. I like the
Yeah,
ending
that's
a
the
lot.
gut
You
punch,
know me,
yeah.
I like meanness, and I really think he ended it on the right note.
He did
Helpless.
because even if the doctor lives, right, that's a dark ending. But I feel like this is the darker ending because now she's completely alone. Nobody, I mean, there probably will be someone coming because the
Mhm.
cops are going to go
Right.
missing. So
Oh,
they'll
that's
probably track them down. But I mean, she was already dying. She's
Right.
infected. Like she's going to die alone attached to these people. And just,
That's
yeah,
disturbing.
so disturbing. I
It
know.
puts an exclamation point on the helplessness of that situation with the ending, which I appreciated.
Yeah.
because she's literally attached to two dead bodies, and there's no way for her to even move to let herself free. So it's like she literally is either gonna have to wait for someone to come and hopefully rescue her, or she's just gonna literally just die there in between the two people she's attached to.
Yeah, and she still had fight. Unlike the Asian man, she was still trying to get out. I mean, she was directing him the whole way, and she was telling him to get the lamp and stuff. So
Right.
up until that point, she still had fight and a willpower to kind of escape and live. And she's the one who escaped earlier in the film. So I feel like, do kind of pull for her a little bit more than the others because she did have a little bit more fight left in her. So yeah, I think for this movie alone, it works killing the doctor, but knowing we have sequels, I do wish that he lived because I would have liked to see him return as a villain and be like a returning villain in part two. Because part two,
Do you remember the concept of part two?
I
Of
do,
like,
yeah,
okay, yeah.
yeah, no, I do. I don't hate it, and it works for the tone of that film, but I think it would have been cooler if we had like the same tone in the sequels, like with the Doctor, and they didn't go like as campy and kind of ridiculous, especially in part three. I mean, part three just takes it a complete different
We gotta do
direction.
part two because I gotta really decide which one I enjoy more, because part two just goes full like what you think a Human Centipede movie is, and it's just so nasty. But part one has the psychological aspect. We're gonna have to do
Yeah,
part two.
We're gonna have to do part two,
boy.
number
It's
Okay,
two.
so
maybe
bad.
next November.
Yeah.
Okay, so that was the first sequence, Human Centipede first sequence. That was interesting. It sounds like we're kind of all on the same page. I'm interested to hear your guys' score, but let's get into our never split up moments. There's definitely plenty. Pick
Yeah.
your character. Pretty much every character in this film has one or multiple. So I guess we'll let Oriana go first, right, Ant? Since
Yeah.
she's
Go
still
for
kind
it.
of new to this. So why don't you go first? You can have your pick.
So okay, I want to say she should have split up actually in the woods when she was like, I want to sit here, I'm not moving, and then she wanted to keep going. I think that's actually would have been beneficial for one of them to split up so that they both wouldn't have gotten captured. I know we want them to stay together, but in this scenario, them staying together also brought them both into harm's way. So the first like in the woods is really for me where I was like, you should split up actually. This would be beneficial or not take the forest.
Yeah. Especially when you think about like the fact that their car is on the road, they definitely should have kept someone in the car in case someone drove by, I think. Yeah. So that's a good one.
I
Okay.
like it.
Yeah, why don't you go? Because I have a couple.
Okay.
I mean, I have a few I
Yeah,
can
I'll
choose
let you
from.
have the one that you talked about. I'm gonna go with when they first get to the house and they take the drink. That, come on, you don't take drinks from strangers, especially. I was gonna go even before that when they first arrive and he answers. He's like, "Are you two alone?" They're like, "Yeah." I'm like, "All right,
Red
so that's one
flag.
red flag." And then he's like, "Do you want?" And then they like, "Can we use your phone?" He's like, "I'll go call them." So like, they don't even like listen to him. Make the clearly, come on, no, no. And then after that, like they take the drinks blindly. So I'm gonna go with the drinks because it's like a series of events that they just keep letting slide, and it just culminates in the drinks which drug them. So they take the drinks from the stranger who's been creepy at the moment he answered the door.
So
Okay, I
creepy.
have two biggies. One I didn't touch on, the one I did. The one I'm not going to go with is the cops. I think the cops, when they return and then they split up and one goes into the cellar while the other one's upstairs, is really just stupid. It's like, get back up, or if you're just going to go in alone, the two of you, like, stay together. Because that could have ended a lot differently if they didn't split up. I'm going to go with the big one I talked about, though, where Lindsay goes back downstairs to try to drag her unconscious friend not only out of the house, but like, what was your plan? You're gonna drag her through the woods? I mean, come on, like he was gonna get you. You were pretty much sealing your fate in that scene. You should have left and got help, and that would have been the smart thing to do. I think it's interesting that me and Oriana both have moments where it's like you should have split up. So I think that's pretty cool.
Right? Because it's like it would have been beneficial if they did split up, except for the cops. I agree. They should
Yeah.
not have split up. You don't go into a scenario like that with by yourselves. Like, I don't care if you have weapons. You don't know what he has. But in lots of parts in this movie, I'm like, you needed to leave your person because you are not helping them whatsoever by trying to drag them along. Because again, like, what were you supposed to do when you get into the woods? Like, drag her through this whole thing? Like, you were never gonna escape. So it was very frustrating watching, and I'm like, just go away, just split.
Yeah, agreed. Okay, let's get to our scores now and wrap up this review. Um, who wants to go first? Ant, you want to kick us off with your score?
Yeah. I think this is, again, I talked about how I appreciate the tone they went with and the, that they did a more psychological and mean approach. But also, I'm like, if I'm gonna watch a movie go Human Centipede, let's just go fucking full crazy bananas at the same point. So they did a balance. I did expect and want more, especially when like they had a couple kills, but if the actual kills could have been like even more violent too, that would have been great. Minus the guy that Nolan talked about, but he took himself out. The doctor didn't even do the killing. So I kind of have a weird like yin and yang with this movie, but I'm gonna say overall it did its job, and I actually think for the director to take the more subtle approach, like showed his kind of capabilities of I'm not just gonna go off the title and just go what people expect. I'm going to take the slow approach, the mean approach, and the psychological aspect. And then I think after the movie came out and people were like criticizing it, he's like, fuck you all, I'm gonna show you what I'm gonna do in part two. So I kind of appreciate what he did with the first two movies, but I'm gonna give this one like a 6 out of 10 because it's enjoyable, it's positive, but I mean, it's not one of my favorites of the two 2010s, and I don't go back to it often. But I mean, I appreciate what he did, and I appreciate that it exists, and it kicked off this nasty, nasty, nasty body kind of horror trend of nastiness. So yeah, 6 out of 10. It's a solid movie.
Okay, I'll go next. I think that the two big things that quote unquote save this movie I've talked about are the doctor. He's the most memorable part of even the sequels to me. Like some of the gross stuff from the sequels I forget, but I will never forget the doctor in this first film. And I think the chase sequences, I think they were very suspenseful and intense. The characters were super stupid, that kind of adds to the intensity of it all. Um, we didn't even talk about when Lindsay like falls into the pool when she just like runs into the pool house, and I'm
Oh,
like,
that
oh
was
my god,
hilarious.
girl! It's like, yeah, that was so funny. But yeah, those were the two things that really saved this movie for me because, like you said, Ant, if we would have gotten just a balls to the wall gore fest of just like showing everything, that would have been fine. But because he didn't do that, he needed those other elements, which I think he succeeded with, and I think it was pretty clever, and he was able to kind of work around, I'm sure, budget constraints to kind of imply a lot of things. So I think with those two aspects, it bumps my score up a decent amount, especially the villain. I'm going to give it a solid 6.9, pun intended, 6.9.
Oh, 69 and
Yeah. Yeah.
Make a joke. Let's save it. All right. Well, I'm basing my score off of my memory of my first watch versus how I watched it now. And there were a lot of things that I did appreciate about this film. I definitely have a new respect for the Doctor and the villain he was and what it did for the film. It definitely has a lot of moments where the audience is just like into it, where we're just like pissed at the decisions they're making. And also at the time, we didn't have all of that gore, like horror that we have now. So it was shocking when we first watched it. But to compared to the sequels and everything, I'm leaning more towards a 6.5 just because there are some flaws to it, and I do wish that the director did go a little bit further. They didn't have to go balls to the wall, but there was just a little bit of things that were missing that I wish that it had, just to kind of push a little bit of the limits for this film that I know that we definitely get in later sequels, but for this one with the hype and everything, I wanted a little bit more, but I appreciate what it started and where they were trying to go because, again, this wasn't a concept we had back then. So it was definitely new and absurd when we first were brought this idea. So 6.5, it's not perfect, but it definitely does its job of being psychological and grosses you out. Like the scene that got me the most was the pus scene when he's
I
pushing out
hated that.
pus. Even on my rewatch, I was like, oh, and then he smells it, and I'm like, that's just
Yeah,
gross, sir.
that gets me more
Why?
than any blood or violence. That kind of
Anything.
shit.
You could have shown
Ugh.
you could have made noises with the shit, and I would have been fine with that. But the fact that the pus and then you smell it, I'm like, I bet it smelled gross. So it's 6.5 is where I'm leaning
All
for
right.
the
All right.
film.
Do you remember the tagline, like 100% medically accurate? I thought that was hilarious too.
Yeah.
I think the sequel like flips in and goes 100% medically inaccurate, which I think
Yeah.
that's clever to me that they
Yeah.
do that.
I think it's interesting hearing Oriana's kind of review, like updated review, if you will, because this is definitely a movie that's like super gross for like quote unquote normies or like coworker. I would say
Yeah.
like your coworker would say, "Oh, that's the grossest movie ever," because obviously it was enough for you, Oriana, since back then you weren't super into horror, enough for you to not rewatch it. But now that you're kind of this seasoned veteran, you're like, oh, I kind of wanted them to go a little bit more. So yeah, I think we're all on the same page there, and we all gave it a pretty close scores. We're all like
Yeah.
kind of within a point of each other, so that's cool. We all agreed. So yeah, that was the Human Centipede first sequence. I had a lot of fun discussing that. Again, welcome officially to the Never Split Up podcast family, Oriana. This is your first
Thank you.
official episode with us, and can't wait to do more with you. Anything else before we leave, guys?
Well, I think this just taught Oriana a lesson that you have to go back and watch all of your no-watch movies, and we have to cover them now. So,
Yeah.
guys, if you're ever second guessing going back to a movie that you couldn't handle or couldn't watch, do it. Go back to it.
Yes, for sure. Let us know what movies you guys may be inspired to rewatch now
Yeah.
that you've watched this episode, and have you watched this one in a while? Maybe you should rewatch this one because obviously it was a little bit of a better viewing for Oriana this time. So yeah, let us know in the comments. Let us know what your moment is you agree with more than Never Split Up moment. Follow us on Twitter or X and Instagram. We're also obviously on YouTube. If you're listening on YouTube, give us a subscribe there. And we're on Spotify, Apple. Leave us reviews there. That really helps the algorithm on the podcast side of things. And until next time. Oh, also, we have a TikTok. I've been running the TikTok for a while. I know, Oriana, I think you're going to maybe help out now with some of the social media. So we might be posting a little bit more TikTok content. So look for us there. And yeah, until next time, we will have our next episode in December. It's going to be a nice little holiday special for you guys. Have a happy Thanksgiving, and we'll see you guys
Watch
later.
this right before you guys eat.
Right? Before
Yeah,
you
we'll see you
feast.
later. Bye.